All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to build a web page. We're going to do this over a series of videos. And this is the web page we're going to build. Pretty awesome. And there's an example that we'll use to walk through that. And we'll be looking at this example right here. And so how do you get to this example? Well, if you go to resources on this course document, and right here at resources you have learning the web. So you can click on that. And then you could go to getting started with the web. And then you click on next, and next, and next, and next. And so what is HTML really? That's the one we want. And you'll notice I've added highlighting to this page, right? So that's kind of a cool thing. And you could search for a Chrome extension, extension, highlight web page is what I searched for. And then I did the super simple highlighter. And so I download that and I add functionality to Chrome. Just like we could add functionality to WebStorm with plugins, or Atom.io and Sublime with packages. We could also add functionality to our browser. Not everybody knows that. It's kind of cool. And to manage your extensions, you go into Settings in Chrome. And you come over to Extensions. And then you could disable them or delete them, get rid of them. The permissions with this one are kind of crazy. Read and change all your data on the websites you visit. But, all right, hopefully it's secure. That sounds kind of intense. I was a little bit like, huh, do I want to include that? All right, so we're going to learn about this, how to build this page. And the first thing we're going to learn is it's really important to, this concept that we were first visiting in the last video, which is like that HTML is for the structure, CSS is for the formatting, and JavaScript is for the functionality. So that's like the foundation, and it's really important to know and keep in mind. You want to have that separation of concerns when you're doing your programming. And HTML is a markup language. That's like the starting point. It's a markup language. What's that mean? And so originally in the internet, text was being sent back and forth, 60s, 70s, and the 80s. And then in the early 90s, Tim Berners-Lee said, hey, you know what? All that text is being sent back and forth. We could do some markup around the text. And then we could have a piece of software look at the page, which is, the text that's coming through, and interpret that markup and display the page in a certain way based upon, how the content is enclosed in different tags. I know I just said a mouthful, right? So here, right, Mozilla is cool. That's a heading. Here, these are paragraphs, right? Different paragraphs right down here. And so, if we didn't have the markup, this would just be one big page of text. But with the markup, we're able to say, okay, that's a heading. These are paragraphs. So we just wrap different content with different tags. So that's important. We wrap different content with different tags, right? We wrap different content with different tags. So here's a list. We created an unordered list. It's unordered because not because it's just randomly put together, though maybe it was. It's unordered because it's not numbered. So we call it an ordered list. A numbered list is what we call it, an ordered list. And if it's not numbered, if it's just bullets, we call it an unordered list. All right. So we have tags, and tags take content. So there's some content, and they wrap it. So here is that same content wrapped with the paragraph tag. And sometimes you'll hear tags referred to as elements. So this word tag and element, they get used interchangeably. And tags will, most of the time, there'll be an opening tag and a closing tag. So you have the opening tag, and then you have content, and then you have the closing tag. So this content right here is all in a paragraph. And sometimes there are self-closing tags. For instance, if we had an image, and let me just scroll down here to images, here's the image tag. The image tag does not have a closing tag. So you have to, just sort of get used to which are the self-closing tags. And I'm just going to change that to tags. Like I said, tags, elements used interchangeably. But here are the self-closing tags, and image is top of the list. I put it at the top of the list. All right, that's the self-closing tags. All right, so we got self-closing tags. We've got, we've closing tags. Tags wrap around content, and the next thing that you should know is nesting tags. All right, so how do we nest? And see here, they're calling them elements. How do we nest tags? And by the way, I've highlighted in orange things I want you to know. So you could pause the video and look at this page. And red is like, that's not like 100% accurate, or that's code, which is a negative example. This doesn't work kind of code. So I made this in red because it's saying HTML can italicize words and make fonts bigger or smaller. True, it totally can. You can use HTML for that. But again, going back to the separation of concerns, which is really important in programming, it just keeps things neat and orderly and allows you to change parts more easily. You want to do all of your formatting in CSS, and HTML is only for structuring content. So you'll structure the content, and then you'll use CSS to format it. And making words italicized or making them bigger or smaller, that's formatting. So generally speaking, you don't want to do that. In practice, we do it sometimes. All right. So the next thing to think about is nesting tags, right? Nesting elements. Oh, so that's what I want to say is just the highlighting. Orange I want to point out, red is a negative example. And you can pause this right here if you want and take a look, but that's also kind of good stuff. And we'll talk about attributes and values in a moment. But to nest elements, here, nesting elements, this is how you nest elements, right? So we have my cat is very grumpy, and very is going to be displayed bold. So we put strong tags on each side of it. And notice the paragraph tag opens, and then the strong tag opens, and then the strong tag closes, and the paragraph tag closes. So there's the way you go in is the way you have to come out. It's like if you walked into a building. I come in the front door, and then I go into the bedroom. I have to then leave the bedroom, and then I can leave the front door. You don't come in the front door, go into the bedroom, and then leave the front door, and then leave the bedroom. That doesn't make sense. So you have to like go in and come out the same way. So here, right, going in, opening, strong, closing paragraph, right? You don't do opening paragraph, opening strong, closing paragraph, closing strong. That's incorrect, right? So that's the incorrect way. So that's nesting elements. And then we talked about empty elements, right? Self-closing elements, empty elements. What are empty elements? Elements that have no content. So yeah, big deal. All right, so yeah, and then sometimes an element will have attributes. We'll just say that right now. So here's one attribute, and this is a class attribute. It's one of the ways we'll target different elements when we're formatting. And so tags can have attributes, and attributes have values. And the values are always inside double quotes. So you put the values inside double quotes like that. So you just say some attribute is equal to some value. And we can see that again down here with the image tag, right? So we have the source attribute, and the value is where's the location of the image you want me to show. And then we have the alt attribute. And the value of that attribute is some text we want to show if the image can't be displayed, or if the person who's looking or the person who's visiting the page is visually impaired and they're using a screen reader. This will be red instead of an image being shown because it's a screen reader. It's audio. You can't show an image with audio, so they have to read this alternative text. The main point is different tags will have attributes and values. So you've learned some really good concepts here. You've learned that HTML is a markup language, and HTML and HTTPS, right? This deal up here, HTTPS, it's hypertext markup language, hypertext transfer protocol. So that's how those two things are being used together. And hypertext is text that Tim Berners-Lee created with markup around it, which the text could have hyperlinks in it, which take us different places. So we have text with markup tags around it, and those tags will say, this text needs to be treated in a certain way. So this would be like a paragraph, and then there's headings. And then when we nest elements, they go in and then they go out in the exact same way. And what else do we learn? And there's some self-closing tags. And yeah. And then what's in between the tags is the content. So this is a really good image right here. Opening tag, closing tag, and then the content. And then this is also nice, the attribute and the value. And I think looking at the image tag to see the attributes and the values is also a really good thing. So you've learned some really great stuff about the beginnings of a web page. And in the next video, we're going to build on this knowledge until in just a few videos, you'll be making stuff like this. Cool.